Okay, here's just a quick look at the Outerlimits Starlight 2 two-person hiking tent. Now, I actually purchased this off eBay for around about the $90 mark, and they had two listed, and I'll obviously put some notes down the bottom here so you can see the seller that I purchased off. Now, they actually had two listed. One was just as the Outerlimits Starlight 2, as you see it there, and the other one was listed as an Oztrail Starlight 2, but the Starlight was actually spelt S-T-A-R-L-I-T-E, so Starlight 2. Now, the interesting thing was that the pictures are exactly the same of the two tents, and the weighting and the description, everything was exactly the same, except one was $5 cheaper. So this is actually the one that I purchased. I actually figured, well, you know, they're exactly the same thing and the picture's exactly the same, I might as well go with the cheaper one. Why am I going to spend $5 for nothing for the same item? So I did that, and this actually doesn't say Oztrail anywhere. It just says the Outerlimits, and the Starlight, as you can spell, is L-I-G-H-T. So not real certain what's going on there. Either way, I'm happy with it. It looks as though it did in the picture, and I'll step back and show you some footage of that. Now, as you can see, the tent's actually wet at the moment, and this is because it was set up yesterday and left out overnight because I knew there was a bit of rain coming and I wanted to see how it went. Now, you can see that it's beaded really well. That's probably partially because of the material, which I'll put in the details down at the bottom there, rather than knowing off the top of my head. And partly because of the material, and because I actually gave it a good coating of sort of anti-mold and water protectant. So I think that's probably assisted as well. The good news is, though, when I've got in and have a look this morning, there's no rain inside the tent. Let's jump in and have a look. I might just touch on a few things here first. A few issues, not so much issues, but a few things that might cause some problems later on. Not sure how I'm going to go erecting the tent in the rain. Chances are, and I'll work out on this technique later. I've only put it up just the once, and it's obviously still standing. Only got it a few days ago. The issue is there isn't any real vestibule space. I'll show you that once we get inside. And because of the way I guess the Rainfly is structured versus the way the inner tent is structured, if it's raining, if it's a downpour, I don't see any other option but getting a lot of water inside the tent, and I'm not really impressed with that, so I'm going to have to see if I can figure out how to pitch it with the Rainfly on. I think that's going to be a distinct possibility, but I'm going to have to definitely work out a technique for getting in there without taking in a heap of rain, and I'll show you exactly what I mean. And we'll just walk in and we'll unzip here. One of the issues, and I'll point out a few other things along the way. Look, the tent only cost $90, so can't complain too much. 1.9 kilos. The way the rain flap here is kept, it looks okay when it's sitting like that. You can see it covers the zip there. That's fine. But it's the way they've actually done the Velcro. Normally it's you know, there's the flap and it'll hold it right down like that, and there'll be Velcro sort of around this point, so on the outer of the rain flap, and it'll fold over. But what they've actually got, you'll see here, we'll go up to this one, there's actually sort of an inside of the rain flap, and the Velcro meets there. You can see that pretty well. Now what that does is, when you go to unzip, like you do here, it gets caught and you can't just undo it, as you can see, like it gets stuck. So you've physically got to undo the Velcro and then continue on. You get to the next one, and yeah, so it causes a bit of issue. It doesn't, however, cause an issue when you're undoing it from the inside. When you're using the tab from the inside, it seems to just open up. So I'm not sure how the Velcro is situated or something, but it doesn't seem to be an issue from the inside. If you actually open up the Rainfly here, you'll see that the tent itself actually protrudes out almost on a sort of 45-degree angle. So you can see obviously if you know, rain's falling from directly above, as you can imagine it would, and you've got that fly open there, all the rain's going to go straight into the tent, straight in there, and obviously, you know, everything's going to get wet, and that's pretty much where your heads are going to be when you're sleeping. You can actually leave it partially closed. Yeah, we'll just zip it up a little bit, sort of like that, and do a hands and knees job to get in the tent, doing your best to sort of, you know, hold this out, so like that, as you try and get in. As you can see, it would be pretty tight and a bit of a tough job to sort of squeeze in there, but you know, probably doable. But yeah, that's one of the main concerns, I guess, if I'm in a downpour or something and I get stuck and I've got a pitched tent. That might be a bit of a challenge. Anyway, let's jump in and we'll have a bit more look inside. We're inside the tent. I'm actually down at the foot position, but you can see, hopefully, it's fairly high. I think it's about, it was about 1 metre high, I'm not sure. Again, I'll put the details down below in the notes. Or obviously a link to the website, which will be just as easy. Now this is actually the inside of the Rainfly. I've got the main part of the tent open just there, and you can see that's pretty much the distance between the tent and the Rainfly. So that there is your vestibule space, but you can see the pair of shoes over there. That's pretty much taking up that whole space. Not really much space around the side there either. You can get a hand in there and you could push it out, but obviously anything that you situate inside, you know, I'm going to say vestibule space, but for lack of a better term, but anything you situate in there is definitely going to be pressing up against the Rainfly, and it's definitely going to be pressing up against your inner tent as well. So whether that's going to bring some water through the Rainfly or not, I'm not sure. Okay, and good news is it's just about to rain now. I haven't actually had a chance to test getting in the tent whilst raining, so might have an opportunity popping up here. Okay, inside the tent, you've got your, let's put that down, you've got your 2 mesh pockets here inside. They're fairly sizable as well, fairly loose, so it's not going to be holding a lot of stuff, but you can see on this side, wait for that to come up, you can see on this side I've actually got just a, you know, sleeping bag, sack, and the inflatable pillow, so they all sort of fit in there. One thing that never seems to surprise me, always seems to surprise me with tents, is the lack of just simple functionality that should apply to every tent, and this one's no different. I've seen it on a number of different tents where they haven't actually given you somewhere to hook a light, and I've got to tell you, shits me to tears. You know, you're going to be spending a little bit of time in a tent, obviously having a snooze. Most people like to have a bit of a read when they go for a camp, so it's a bit disappointing that they haven't supplied somewhere to hang a light. I've tried putting it into the mesh pockets on the side, and look, you know, you get the light off the side of the tent. It's probably okay, but it's not really sufficient for reading. Anyway, let's have a look at the rest of the tent. We'll just spin around here. Now, keeping in mind that I'm only 5'4", so I'm only a little fella, so there's plenty of space in here for me. It is touted as a 2-person, but we all know how that works. We'll just get out of the way here, and we'll just set up that sleeping bag, just to give you an idea of the width of the tent. And we'll just push that over to one side. Okay, there we go there. So that's the one man. That's obviously a sleeping bag there, width for 1 person. It's not a particularly wide sleeping bag either. It's sort of a mummy style with the hood, and so you can imagine that that's not particularly wide. So if you actually had one of those wider, bigger sleeping bags, then you know you're probably going to have problems. I really don't see how you're getting 2 people in here. You probably get them in here at a pinch, but you wouldn't want them to be too big, and it might be an idea to have a bit of a diet before you do. But the purpose of this tent for me is for myself and my dog. So that's all I need room for. So there's plenty of room for my mate on this side. One thing that you need to be aware of is the material, because it's only 1.9 kilo, which is not too bad for a two-person tent, probably considered light. The ground floor, the sheet on the bottom, the floor is quite a thin material. You can see there, but that's to be expected. When you start looking at looking to go light, then you obviously have to have some lighter weight materials. So you definitely want a ground sheet under this. And obviously, if I'm going to have the dog in here and he's going to be keeping beside me overnight, I need to put something down on this for him to be on, because I think his claws are going to go straight through this. Now, all the seams, I was actually interested to see how the bucket style floor was going to hold up in the rain. Look, the rain wasn't terrible last night. It was sufficient to test out the fly, but it definitely hasn't tested out the bucket floor. That will obviously have to come. We're expecting some more winds and some more rain tomorrow and overnight, so that should be good. One thing I can tell you is that we had some ridiculous winds the night that I set it up, and this held up admirably. It did very, very well. So really impressed with that, how well it held up just in the wind. It didn't even budge. I came and jumped in here whilst it was windy, and there was no flapping or any of that sort of stuff. But I have pegged it out and ensured that it was really, really tight as well. So, which is the way I like it when I peg up a tent. Anyway, alright, just having a quick look at the seams here. There's obviously a joint, everything's seam sealed. All seems to be pretty well done. Doesn't seem to be any issues that I've had a look on the tent as far as quality goes. And again, keep in mind that we're only talking about a $90 two-person tent coming in at 1.9 kilos. So, as a rule, you can generally spend quite a bit of money on something to go light. But I've been quite impressed with this thus far. You can see all the side of and I will get a shot of this from the outside once it stops raining to show you the actual inner tent. But there's some ventilation up the top, and that's on both sides. Interestingly enough, though, it doesn't have the little cardboard piece or the little bit on the Velcro where you can actually stick that up and hold those out. So the one that you're actually looking at was bent when it was packed originally from the factory, and it sort of doesn't open out right away. So I think a few more goes at that and setting in the right position, that should retake its form and hopefully start working. But there's plenty of ventilation there. The best thing about ventilation, though, if obviously you're in, if you're in a summer type environment, hot environment, then you obviously can do away without the Rainfly, if that's what you want to do, and you can just have the inner tent, which you can see is predominantly all mesh. That's good, you can still hear the rain. Predominantly all mesh on the sides. There's a mesh section down the bottom, so if the wind's coming from that way, the breeze coming from that way, you'll get that there as well. And you can also zip up the entry section, and I'll just lay it back so you can see that. And you can see that top section just here, that actually is mesh as well, so no seam mesh. Let's just check that, I'll open that up. Just like that. So if you had the fly off, that actually becomes like a little window with the no seam mesh in it, stop the bugger getting in, and it does work quite well. I was interested when I first got it and I was laying here, I thought, oh yeah, we'll open that up and we'll have a look out. And then of course this is sort of flapping down, and this is where your head goes where my feet is, and this is almost touching you on the face. I thought, oh well, bugger, it's a bit of a stupid design flaw. But what actually happens is, you'll notice it doesn't zip all the way down. There's still this section here. 3 inches, 4 inches, something like that. So what that actually does is you can roll it over, fold it up, and just drop it in there like that, and it stays out of the way. Now, talking about design flaws and simple little things that would improve the design of some tents, simple little things, and I can probably understand why they've done it. But just let me spin around. There you go, so you can see how small I am, because I can spin around sideways in a little 2-man tent. This is the top, the roof, the ceiling, whatever you want to call it. Now I don't know about you, but when I go camping, one of the most spectacular views is generally upwards. So I'm a little bit disappointed that, so if I didn't have the Rainfly on, I could lay back and effectively feel like I'm laying outside and be looking up at the stars. So I'm a bit disappointed that at least this, maybe this top section, maybe quarter of that or something, wasn't followed through with the mesh. And just having a look at that, you can actually see through that though. I'm not sure if you can see the water on the fly there. Now there is an actual tab there, which is Velcro to hold on to the fly tent poles. I think they're T6 from memory, but again, put the specs or a link to the specs down below. Held on with clips, and pops into the tabs outside there as well. The pegs that come with this are very, very light aluminium with basically no head on them at all. I'll get you a visual of one of those in a minute. So with no head on them at all, and very, very hard to pin down. I'm in the backyard at the moment, and the ground's not that hard, and so I was quite surprised when I tried to push them in. They're very sharp, so I actually want to drive them in with something else other than the back of your hand, and it was even challenging to do by foot. So whilst they will probably work from a weight perspective, again, a bit of a challenge from a design perspective, something with a flat head, something to assist you to drive it in. But they, look, they work. For the purpose of putting it out here in the backyard, though, I went with my older ones, just the steel ones, because they're easy to drive in. Now, I said there wasn't any issues with design, with quality, and look, particularly there isn't. But I'm not sure whether you can see. I've only just spotted this one. Just a thread hanging out there, and that corner of the seam is not fantastic, and there was another thread just hanging out just there as well, and that's on the front zip to the fly. So I'm probably going to adjust that, cut it off, do whatever I need to do so it doesn't get caught and pulled off. But anyway, that's it. I will, hopefully all goes well, I will set up the Black Wolf Stealth Mesh 2-person tent, which I have also. That was the original intent to go hiking and take that with a dog. That's 2.6 kilo versus the 2.9 of this one. But obviously 700 grams is quite a bit off your back, and I do think I actually like this one better for going. The issue with, sorry, just going to spin around, for going, the issue with not actually having much room for storing stuff outside. With the Stealth Mesh, there is a bit of a vestibule on one side. The bucket floor is sturdier. The floor is sturdier in the Stealth Mesh. Very notable difference in the floor material. I know I said I'd like the roof to be a mesh material, but you can actually see out of this section here when you're laying down. Position your head correctly, you can actually see out there. And this is great for ventilation. I did have that open last night when I was in here temporarily, and that provides a lot of additional ventilation. And alternatively, you can just have it all open and just rely on the Rainfly like that, which is not too bad. One other thing to show you, it's quite interesting how they have this. Get that pillow out of the way. Quite interesting how they have this zips all the way down. So it's similar to a D-door, I guess, or that sort of style. So that's the entrance there. But the entrance to the tent basically zips right back, folds up, and there is a little pocket down in that corner, but I tend to just stick it down there like that. So it does open right up. So excellent access to the tent, assuming that it's not raining. Obviously if it's raining, might be in trouble. And you know, tie offs, there we go, tie off, you know, just the standard toggle and toggle type approach as far as tying off the entry, tying off the fly so you can get in. And a test to the no seam mesh working, and I think these two are having a shag just on the outside of my tent. So it's nice to know somebody's christened it before I have. Plenty of little bugs flying around on the outside, but none of them actually inside the tent, so it's good to know that they were actually on the outside, inside the Rainfly, but none of them actually got in. So look, overall, pretty impressed with the tent thus far for, you know, $89. Sun's feels like it's just starting to belt down outside now, and it's warming up quite quickly in here. So that'll be another challenge, is to see what it's going to be like in the warmer weather, but not really going to be an issue considering I can fire back the fly and just sit in here as if it's a mesh tent. Okay, so that's the Oztrail Outerlimits Starlight 2, or just the Outerlimits Starlight 2 depending on the spelling, but we'll have a look at the outside and I'll show you the fly as well.